because the previous one, I don't know what went wrong with it. YouTube. There was another bug yesterday also. So, okay. Let me see if I can get any response over here. Okay. For those of you that are here, this is another live stream I started, the third one today, in the hope that this time it works. There is an option for you to talk to me in the live stream. I'm just going to check whether that one is working. So, working. Okay, so this one works better. The only thing I'm going to check now is why this widget here ain't working, but I may find another. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. So for those that are here, again, this video live stream is about sexual violence and the link to blood sacrifice. I already explained that society is a con man, that it tricks you into agreeing with an outcome, and at the same time that you are blamed for not getting along with this outcome. And because you're blamed for not complying with the outcome, you think that you not complying with the outcome is a crime. You not complying with the outcome is a crime. But the thing is, what society itself is doing is conning and scamming you. And when it comes to human sexuality, that's exactly what society is doing to you. You are being conned and scammed. But you don't realize that you are being conned and scammed. So, let's look at the bigger picture with this, shall we? If you have been conned and scammed by society, and you are walking around with cognitive dissonance, what's the purpose of this cognitive dissonance? The purpose is very simple: to keep you from questioning the narrative. That's what it's about. There is really no other purpose for it. You are not supposed to realize that you've been conned, and even if you do, you are expected to just take it with a grain, not a grain of salt, but you're just supposed to take it as well, just the way it goes. So some of you have found your way already to this live stream over here. I'll leave the one that failed online so that people can watch that, and so later they come to this one. When it comes to sexual violence, people have been conditioned to think about females in need in general. So now that I'm using this software for the live for this, so I can also hold on. I'll show this. Let me put this here for you to see. By the way, if you're here and you hear me clearly, again, just connect with me in the live chat. That's how I communicate with you all. There's a little delay of a few seconds, but that's not really a problem. Rochelle is here. Thank you, Rochelle. When it comes to sexual violence, this is, I go to images, this is what the world wants you to see. Images like this one over here, or an illustration like this. A dark male figure and a female that's frightened. That's what the world wants you to see, and this is what they want you to associate with. Hold on, let me put it over here. This is what they want you to associate with sexual violence. It's when the female is the victim and the male the perpetrator, which is a classic example. Have you ever asked yourself why they always put out this narrative? Why they always put it in your face? The reason I'm asking this is because this falls in line with a live stream I did before about how the Apollonians use voodoo spells on the population to drain masculine energy, and I explained that voodoo spells are really hacking female spirituality to drain feminine sexuality. So, does any of you have an idea why they want you to be overwhelmed with images like this one over here? Just let me know in the live chat what comes up in you. Because it's a live stream, so I want to interact with you. Let me know. Epiphany of Veritas said to confuse the role of sexes. Well, that's a correct answer also. Let's see what the others are saying. Yes, to distort, to obfuscate, to imbalance. To make you depressed and feel unsafe and angry at men and be worried it can happen even when nothing is wrong. Exactly. You are paying good attention. I'm glad with it. These images. It's Susan. Thanks for being here, Susan. These images are put out as pornography. Pornography isn't just, well, you put images of naked people. I already explained that pornography is when you put out imagery suggesting an expectation that's not real. That's what pornography is. And when people think of pornography, they think of those loosely dressed females, which are often transgenders, on billboards. This is also pornography. When they conduct campaigns against violence against women and they show you pictures of scenes in which a woman is about to be victimized. Because what happens to the mind? When the mind sees these images over and over again, the mind becomes acclimatized to those images. The mind feels comfortable after a while being exposed to those images. So even though those images are quote unquote to fight violence against females, they're actually conditioning you to be comfortable being exposed to violence against females. And then you have the secondary effect, is that when you put these images out there for a long period of time, women will internalize those images, and before they are aware of it, they begin to become suspicious of men around them. That is what those campaign pictures are meant for. They're not meant as deterrent against violence against women, even though that's what the propaganda is telling you. They're there to condition you to feel comfortable with being exposed to it. So this is an inverted magic. If you want to write this down, write this down. This is inverted magic. In inverted magic, you expose someone to something they shouldn't be involved with, and you warn them against that thing, but the way you expose them to that thing they shouldn't be involved with triggers an attachment to that same thing. So this is inverted magic that they're conducting on the mass over here. And the reason I'm showing these images is to deprogram you by explaining to you what's going on. Because inverted magic works when you don't have the proper explanation. The moment you have the proper explanation, your mind can process it. In inverted magic, they expose you to something over and over again, so you become familiar with it, but because there is no clear explanation to it, your mind is stuck. And it's when your mind is stuck that your mind becomes accessible to evil spirits. So all those stage photos that you see over here are there so that you become comfortable with exposure to something. And here's the thing. What they're doing here is exactly how they've done it throughout the centuries. Before there was social media, before there was mainstream media, they did exactly this. During the colonial era, when you had the transatlantic slave trade, they would make prints. That means those printed drawings that they would spread around in pamphlets throughout the Caribbean, throughout Europe, throughout Asia, of black folks in chains and being packed on ships. Why were they doing this? What's the purpose of it? By exposing the masses to these images over and over again, the masses become familiar with seeing black folks on slave ships in chains. So when it happens in front of them, they're kind of familiar to the scene. And because they are familiar to the scene, they are less likely to resist it and less likely to do something about it. Because that's how the human mind works. When you are unconsciously comfortable with it. Even if the thing itself is not something to be comfortable with, even if mentally you realize, don't admit it, this is disturbing, because you've been exposed to it in a ritual way over and over again, internally and emotionally, you're comfortable with it being there because you recognize it. The human mind is designed to be familiar with things. That's how God designed us. And the enemy is using this design to program us in self-destruction. So this here is sexual violence. So when they make this is a program sponsored by the European Commission, I see. when they make things like this, let me make this, I'm going to use this one as an example for you, because they also use text for doing this. No, European Union, I'm not into you now, I just want to show this. When you see something like this, never her fault. Okay? I'm going to ask you, because you viewers, you're smart. You know these things. What is wrong with the message that you see over here? The first thing comes up in you, what's wrong over here? You don't have to think too long. You're smart. I know you're all clever. What's wrong with this message? I'm just going to wait a half a minute more to see if someone else also responds. Joanna gave a good answer. Yes. Why they put the her in white? The woman is never accountable for her actions. Correct. There's a not okay, I'm going to explain it now. This is in orange. Orange is a color used in Freemasonry. It has a symbolic meaning. So I'm not saying that automatically Freemasons are behind this. No, but it's a color used in Freemasonry and it's used in rituals. So the fact that it shows orange shows you that this is a ritual already. And they use the white. White means innocence, symbolically. They put her. So she is innocent. She is not accountable. Never, and then her fault. And then you have a message written small over here. Your brain picks up her. So your brain thinks, what's wrong with her? And then you hear never her fault. So what this does is that this conditions your mind to think that a woman is never at fault at all. And then they show you those disgusting images. I'm just going to say what it is, like this one over here. So you see those images, you see some message like this over here. So your mind makes connection. Anytime a woman says something, she's never wrong. That's what your mind picks up. They don't literally say it in the text, but they hint it to you. So what happens now is that when you are exposed to this programming over and over again, every time you see a female, you see a potential victim. And now some may say, but Rashid, there are many women that are the victim of domestic violence. Yes, I know. But this type of programming, it conditions you to see females as victims. And why is that bad? Well, very simple. If you condition the masses to see women as potential victims, then the next step is to hint to them that the victimization is necessary. So first, you need to degrade the image of the female into that of a victim. And you do this over and over again. And at the same time, you trigger people to protect the victim. So now, every woman you encounter is a potential victim. And what happens to victims? They're victimized. So you become familiar with women being victimized. So when women are victimized, you are familiar with the situation as if you've already been there. And now you may think, hold on a minute, I don't agree with violence against women. No, you mentally, consciously you don't. But emotionally, you've been shaped to be familiar with it. Again, this is inverted magic right over here. It's the same thing they do. I already explained this before when they're talking about fighting poverty, for example. It's the same type of inverted magic that they practice. Anytime they talk about poverty and lack, they put some image of some indigenous community or of black folks in it. This is for you to feel comfortable on an unconscious level with seeing black people in poverty. So that any time you see another black individual, you automatically think that they may be poor or they may be needy or they're in a struggle. That's how they condition you with images and pictures. This is pornography. Just a picture in itself is not pornography. Get that straight. Just because you see a picture doesn't mean it's pornography. But if the picture is put in such a way to suggest an outcome onto you that's not true, then that's pornography. Now look, if you would take a picture of a naked female and put it on a billboard, it would be just a naked picture of a female on a billboard. People will look at it and think, okay, that's a naked female. If you're a woman yourself, think, okay, it's a naked female, so what? Your brain can process it because it's something natural they put over there. Or if it's a woman that's scarcely dressed, your brain can picture, oh, she's scarcely dressed, she wants sexual attention, who cares? Your brain can process it. Pornography is when you put an image in such a way that your brain cannot process it. And then you're hinting the mind into a direction. That's pornography. So don't see a picture of a scarcely dressed woman and think, oh, that's pornography. No. If it's a woman taking Instagram selfie, she's scarcely dressed, you can think, oh, just a girl. It's just a girl wanting attention. But if they put a transgender over there making a selfie, pretending to be a woman, your brain gets confused. Your brain thinks, huh? What is this? And that's the cognitive dissonance that demons need to use you. Need in order to have a hold on you. So now that you understand how inverted magic is used in perpetrating sexual violence, now you can understand what its connection is with blood sacrifice. And I'm going to use a present day threat that's on us to explain this to you. Now we know what's going on in the world at the moment, this whole corona pandemic thing. By the way, the word pandemic has the word pan in it. Pan is a Greek god. So even in the words they're using, they're referring unto the gods they worship. So, about this whole thing of corona, I want you to hold on. Yes, this is a correct one that I can use. Can you see it clearly? Yes, androgyny is a fundamental satanic right. Androgyny is all about rejecting the role of the female. Exactly. Let me know if you can see this clearly. If not, I'll look for another image for you. Okay. Can everyone read what's here? I can read it for you. Okay. So what you see here, those are doctors, medical professionals, okay? Here's a sign. I stay at work for you, in blue. Remember, blue is a color of enforcement. When you use blue, you want to enforce something. That's how the psyche works. When you use blue, blue has a calming effect, so you can enforce things on people and used to the color blue. You stay at home for us. Blue is when you want to enforce something. Red is when you want something from someone. So, I stay at work for you. You stay at home for us. So in the you stay at home for us, there's something they want from you. And this is what they're enforcing on you. And then you have written stay home. A lot of these images are going around the internet at the moment. And people say, well, Rashid, those doctors are working for us to fight this disease. That may be true. You have a lot of doctors who have made an oath that they want to protect human health, and they're doing what they're trained to do. This is not about the doctors. I have nothing against them. This is not about them. I'm talking about those messages they're sending out to you. What those messages are telling you is that you are disloyal and unthankful if you don't stay at home. So, by doing this, they're shaming you into questioning what's going on around you. Because what's on your mind now is, okay, there's this virus out there killing a lot of folks. Even if I don't get ill, I can transfer the virus to someone else, and someone else will die because of me. So they're conditioning you into guilt. They're guilt tripping you, which is a form of black magic. Blue and red. They could have written it all in black. White, blue, and red, because it's a ritual. And you have this guy over here making the pyramid. You see it? He's making a pyramid over here. She's making a pyramid also. Oh, there's another one making a pyramid right over here. So you have 3 pyramids. An X over here, also referring to the beast. So even this picture over here, is a ritual to worship the beast. And I made a video already that COVID-19 is coded 666. So even the name they gave to this thing refers unto the God that they are worshiping. Okay. So let's have this thing open. Oh no, this is another one. But here it says, if you love yourself, stay at home, keep the virus out. In blue. Okay, just ask yourself. Stop coronavirus, stay home, stay safe, with a heart. This is red, so they want something from you. If there is, and I'm asking you, if there is this pandemic going on and you're staying at home, they say you may risk spreading the virus. Okay, but if everyone stays at home, what is being done to really eliminate the virus? If everyone stays at home. Shouldn't a community be involved in solving it together? Oh, okay. Well, and here's another thing that, so I want to show you the following also. Because now that I'm talking about it, I'm going to show you all about it also, so hold on. I want this image to open. Just something a bit interesting that I wanted you to notice. They don't really talk about it much. This is a display of the aging population in Europe. So what happened after the Second World War? you had this mentality that we shouldn't have too many children because the earth is overpopulated and all of that. So the youngsters back then didn't have many babies in Europe and in other parts of the Western world. So eventually the population began to drop. And then the sociologists as well as the people that work at the governments realized, okay, if this continues, you're going to have a lot of old people and very few young people, and the economy cannot work this way. So eventually they realized, okay, this is going on, we can't reverse it. So there are two things that there are a few things can happen. Either we push the young people to have a lot of babies. Well, that didn't work out well, despite many government campaigns to do this. And or we put in a lot of migrants so that there's a stability in the population. The second thing, a lot of Europeans opposed. Not only Europe, also in America and many other places also. So what's the third option then? Well, you need to find a way to get rid of the old people. Because they're going to be around and it's going to be costly to maintain them with so many few young folks. And the aging of the population was going on in the 2010s, and in the 2020s till 2030s, it would explode, kind of, the aging of the population. This population decline. Now that population would decline, they could stabilize this with migrants, but that you have so many old people, that was a problem that many governments were facing. And now, what do you have? At the right time, you have this virus that threatens old people. And because of elder people, everyone needs to stay at home. And a lot of elderly people are dying here and there throughout Europe. Don't call me a conspiracy theorist. There is no such thing as coincidence in the world. Why now that you have an aging population that's growing, you have the economic concerns that come along with it, suddenly you have this virus that threatens elderly people and they lock down many economies. Now that economies are locked down, people stay inside, people don't pay attention to what's exactly going on their continent or around them. So, I want to show you this. So what's going on now with this whole corona thing? It's blood sacrifice that's going on. They're sacrificing the elderly, and some of the youngsters, to preserve their world system. That is what's going on. Now, another thing I want you to realize about this COVID-19 thing is, just think about this. It started in China around December 2019, they said. Okay, so let me go to it. Okay, it started in Wuhan. A few months back, people were distracted by this athlete that died in a helicopter. A lot of folks were sad about this incident with Kobe Bryant and with what happened to his daughter and other people on the helicopter. There were already theories that he was assassinated by the CIA and all of that. While people were focused on this thing, yet an infection that was spreading in the world. And now, after this, there are many lockdowns going on. And there were newspaper articles during the time of this Kobe Bryant incident that showed that, oh, there is a virus is spreading. There's an epidemic going on in China. And within less than 3 months, it's worldwide. And in China, in many places, allegedly, they are corona-free. hold on a minute. If it takes around 2 years to develop a vaccine, a vaccination against something, how come that within 3 months, China in many places they are corona free that quickly? And there are many people living back to one another. And now in Italy, now in North America, places where they had the problems with an Asian population, there it's spreading like wildfire. And there were people saying, why don't black people get the corona disease? When people came to ask that question, suddenly you get cases in Africa. Suddenly you have famous black people being tested positive on corona. Look, this is way too obvious. It's way too obvious that this pandemic is used. I'm not saying that it's literally caused by the Apollonians. Maybe it's the case. But it is being used by the Apollonians to achieve their purpose of getting rid of the elderly, so that the transition from the Anglo-American era towards a more Islamic-dominated era would happen smoothly. That is what's going on. So, people are now conditioned to accept blood sacrifice. Donald Trump said something quite odd. Let's see if I can find. That elderly were willing to die willfully. And I was thinking, what? Did Donald Trump, or maybe it's not Donald Trump said it, but someone else from his administration, that elderly are maybe willing to die voluntarily just to save the welfare system, whatever? And I was thinking, come on. Who says something like this? Oh, doing the 666 hand sign right over there. Pointing the finger, showing his one with Apollo. Obvious. So, even with this COVID thing, also what's going on in Italy, that they don't treat many elderly because they're overwhelmed. They're conditioning you to accept the dying off of the elderly, to comply with the blood sacrifice. Susan said, what about transitioning not necessarily to Islamic but monetary? Well, what's going on now is that they want to achieve the following end. Cash money can never be fully abolished, because once you abolish cash money, the illusion won't work anymore. Human beings need a physical thing to rely on when it comes to finances. So, you keep cash money in existence, but you want to make it rare. So what's going on now is that because people are so afraid of getting the coronavirus, they now decide that in many places you can't pay with cash anymore, just with your card. So people are now accustomed to paying cashless. So eventually, when people hear about that they want to reduce cash money as much as possible, people think, it's better because with cash money you can transfer diseases, so it's better if you don't use a lot of cash money anymore. And look what happens next. Once people have accepted that it's not necessary to use cash much anymore, most money will be transferred electronically. Okay, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is that now it will become very hard for you to be financially independent. You know why? Because when you have money at home in your wardrobe, they don't know how much there is there. If you have it on the bank account, they can shut it down, blocking you from using it. They can confiscate it. So if they make it difficult for you to use cash money out there in making payments, they have successfully shut down many people from being financially independent. And this is used to hinder believers. That is what it's meant to do. So that is one of the plans, so that people become dependent on their smartphones for payments. And there's one thing, believers. There's one weakness in this whole plan. Because scripture makes plain that the final stage of the beast system is partially strong, partially weak. And I want to reveal to you where this weakness lies. The weakness of all of this is in the fact that it cannot last for long. So, what believers can do now is, if they have cash anywhere, is to put it in use to purchase tiny plots of land. It doesn't have to be acres long, can be just the size of a small garden. Make sure you can purchase some tiny plots of land. If you have $2,000 and you're able to get a few square meters, do it. Get small plots of land right now. Why? When you have a plot of land, you can grow your own food on it. You can build something tiny on it. And here's the thing. In South America, and also in Australia and in other places, there's a lot of land that's available. So, believers, those of you who have some cash at hand, get to work to get small plots of land right now. Don't wait till this whole corona thing is over, because it may not be over that quickly. So you pray, decree, and declare, and while you pray, decree, and declare, you're active. And that's the thing about walking by faith. Walk by faith is an activity. Look, if you go to the gym, you lift the weights, you run on the machines, then you rest, and your muscles become stronger. And because your muscles are stronger, your muscles can handle more. When it comes to the spirit, it's similar. In the spirit, it goes like this. You pray, decree, and declare. You become more powerful in your emissions, so that when you arrive to do some action, there is an impact already. So that is how believers ought to be. We are spiritually active and will result in physical actions also. There's another thing believers can do to counter this. You can't stop it, you can counter it, because understand the following. This whole cashless society thing, it will not work for long. They know it. It's just something to scare people into not doing God's will. So one thing you can do is, you can just open multiple accounts. Those are bank accounts. You also have online bank accounts today that you don't even need to have a bank card for. And you can just distribute the small amount of cash you have upon them. Do that. And when you have those multiple bank accounts, speak to the amount you have those bank accounts. Decree wealth on all of them, each one of them apart. Why? Because this is what it goes. When you have a curse, it needs one thing. A curse can only affect one thing at a time. A curse cannot affect everything at the same time. So the paranormal is quite limited. When you divide your wealth, in such a way and curses come, the curse can only affect one of those divisions, not all of it. There's another thing you can do. And the most important thing is just be alert to what's going on around you. When the population is dropping and when you have the Mohammedans growing, there's going to be windows of opportunity where you'll have a lot of plots of land that are empty because those people aren't there anymore. And then they'll need to get rid of those houses, but they're going to demolish them all. At that time, when you see that happen, believer, make your move. Just make your move right away. That is something we can do. So, I hope this part is clear to you. I digress a little bit talking about what we can do to counter the cashless society, but I thought it's necessary for us. That's why I went into it. Just realize that all of this is going on is a transition that's taking place. And in every transition, Apollonians spill blood to satisfy the demons. And that's what we're in now, in the transition. That's all it is, a transition. So, in this transitional phase, it's important to realize it's a transition and realize you've been transitioned out of something. What are we transitioned out of? The American era, where the British Empire continued under in the form of the United States, in which the Anglo-Dutch banking system called capitalism was kept in place. The Anglo-Dutch banking system will still be around, but will be like a monument, like a ruinous monument, while the Mohammedan banking will increase. That's what we're heading towards. A lot of people now still hold on to the American era and the Anglo-Dutch banking system for things to work for them. Even though the dominance of the Anglo-Dutch banking system is decreasing and fading away. And that is why you have those shutdowns all over the world. So that people don't realize that the Anglo-Dutch banking system is fading away. And because they don't realize it's fading away, they think once this whole corona thing is over, we're going to invest in the banking system again. This is going to just be fine. It won't be. There may be a small economic bubble, maybe, but that will pop also. So, do you understand what I've explained about this transitional phase that's going on right now? Let me know in the comment section. Not comments, let me know in the live chat. Do you understand what I've just explained? Do you understand the potential solutions I've offered about the situation? Good. And that's quite important for you not to be frightened by what's going on. We know that all wars are hoaxes. We know that crime is also an industry to spread fear in the population. So, we know now that this transitional phase is also orchestrated just so that the people are kept in bondage without being aware of it. So, this connection between sexual violence and blood sacrifice is as follows. When you install sexual confusion people are more likely to embrace blood sacrifice. You don't come with the blood sacrifice first and then sexual confusion. That's not how it goes. You impute sexual confusion first, and then blood sacrifice flows easily out of it. Why? Because Christ's design, Adam and Eve, male and female, when that design is in harmony, that brings forth life for the community, for everyone in the community benefits from it. Once you distort this blueprint, you will only have death and destruction that will come forth from that pollution. So the enemy wants to keep us all sexually confused, because once you're sexually confused, your empathy goes down. Sexually confused people don't have healthy empathy towards others. Sexually confused people are in a narcissistic loop in which they can't relate well to other people. When the empathy of a community goes down, their inner radar, their spirit ability to sense danger goes down also. So people become dumb-minded. I'm not saying they become dumb, but they become dumb-minded. They can't sense danger anymore. They can't discern well anymore. And when they can't discern well anymore, and they can't even relate that well to other people because their empathy is low, when issues come and there are frustrations, they want to get rid of frustration as fast as possible. And in this frustration, this agitation, it's very easy for people to become obsessed with one target as it's very easy for them to become obsessed with viewing one individual as the cause of their problems. And then it's very easy. People will just give in to the urge to sacrifice those people. So first you have sexual confusion, and the result of it is an easy flow of blood sacrifice. Because if a population is sexually healthy, they will never agree with blood sacrifice. Because if there's sexual health in a community, then they will value themselves and their offspring and their fellow human beings in the community. Once there is no sexual health anymore, but if the sexual pollution, people will feel uncomfortable amongst one another, and this will lead to domestic violence, which will lead to defective adults, those traumatized children that became adults, and that will lead to societal dysfunction that will turn into generational curses. Do you understand now why in warfare, not only today but also in the past, when soldiers would arrive in a territory, often they would conduct rape rituals? Today you don't hear people talk about that anymore because it's quite embarrassing, but that used to be the norm. Both in ancient times as in modern times, it happened. It's something they don't talk about because, again, it's quite embarrassing. You had a group of men that were traumatized, mentally broken down. That's what happens to you in the military. And they're sent off into some weird land in enemy territory where their life is endangered. The general pushes them, so now they become mentally dependent on the direction of the general. That's energetic homosexuality right over there. They're now mentally subjected to another man. That's sodomy. No man is supposed to be mentally subjected unto another man. Nobody. No man. But that's what happens in the military. You are put into the state of energetic homosexuality without being aware of it. And in this state, you can't think clearly. So, on the field, those men are frustrated, and you have a lot of young women walking around. They haven't been involved with women for a while, so what are you going to get? you're going to have an escalation, rape rituals, gang rape, and all of that. Such things were done on purpose in the past, because when a significant portion of the female population of community is sexually traumatized, this will automatically affect everyone else in the community. Because those women that are sexually traumatized, they will transfer this pain and this fright onto everyone else in the community. That's why in warfare, they would sexually violate the women, especially young girls, when the military comes in. And this sexual fright in the population itself causes sexual confusion, and because of this, the population is much more susceptible to killing their own onto the demons. Do you understand what I've just explained? Let me know in the live chat. I'll just wait for a moment. Let me know. And if you have questions, just ask them also in the live chat, please. Okay, good. So that's one thing the military did. And I'm going to well, for the female believers who are watching this, you may be familiar with this saying, no means no. Hold on, let me make this. Okay, I may be able to show it like this. No means no. Whatever we wear, wherever we go, yes means yes, no means no. Okay, just think about the statement for a moment. No is a refusal, it's rejection. Okay? So, if you want to change behavior of some people in the community, you don't use rejection to achieve that end. Because any psychologist will tell you, the moment people feel rejected, they are less likely to comply with you. Again, the moment people feel rejected, they are less likely to comply with you. The moment they feel rejected, they are more likely to resist or become violent. That's the human psyche. So, that being the case, why are those political parties or those civil society movements, why are they using rejection in their message to change particular behavior? If it's obvious that rejection is the least effective method to use. That doesn't add up, does it? So, think about it. There is sexual violence going on against females, and I'd say no means no. People say, well, if a woman says no, she says no. Okay. Everyone understands that, but that's not really what it's about. They don't address this message to a specific group of people. This is not a psychological. Look at this. No means no. Who are you talking to when you say no means no? You're talking to men, right? Well, that suggests on you they're talking to men. Okay, but Which blonde? Oh, this one over here. Okay, let me just move away from that one. Okay. So, if someone has disturbing behavior, you address the one with disturbing behavior, right? If there's a whole crowd out there on the marketplace and two people are stealing, you're not going to say, don't steal to everyone. Because everyone will look around and think, what? Stealing? We're just doing our thing. You're going to shock a lot of people unnecessary, which itself will cause confusion and trauma. Why? Because you tell them, don't steal. So now you're accusing the majority of the people of stealing, while only two people who are sneaking things away. Anyone will tell you that by doing that, you'll get a lot of angry people, and rightfully so. So why do they address this no means no campaign to the people to whom it applies? Why don't they say sexual deviance, no means no? Why don't they mention whom they're addressing it to? It is because the message has an ulterior motive. No means no simply means if you are rejected or rejected. So it has nothing to do with the topic of sexual violence against women. It has to do with keeping people in a mindset of rejection. Why not promote healthy male and female relationships or a healthy male-female dynamic as God intended it to be? Why don't they do that? That's constructive. Once you promote and expose people to the natural dynamic of male and female, that will trigger them because that's part of their design. And once you trigger part of someone's design, they are more likely to comply. Why? Because it's part of what they are. And human beings are not designed to be socially ostracized, socially marginalized, or rejected. We're not designed for that. That's why people are so sensitive to rejection, because we're not designed to experience that. So why are they forfeiting provoking the natural dynamic in the human being, but they do provoke something we're not even meant to experience? It's all about keeping you in sexual fright. It's about women feeling frightened around men. And when women feel frightened around men, they have difficulty bonding with men. So if they are bonded with men, it will be a chaotic bonding that's quite toxic. And then the men are drained. And when the men are drained and there are children around, the children will develop mental issues. And that's how you have a loop that will go on from generation to generation, and demons are feeding off of it. And from those children that are victimized, some will turn out into violent creeps. And once you have those violent creeps out there, people are now more frightened. And now you have people saying we need a death penalty. Now people will cry out for very harsh punishments. And now you will have the death penalty where they murder people as blood sacrifice to their demons, or you will have vigilantes going around taking matters in their own hands. So now you have public blood sacrifice being sanctioned by the public. That is how they do it. So, what I'm telling you here, believers, is to always look at the context of a message sent to you. Because the context affects you, even if you don't know the context. You don't have to know what the context is, but the context of how something is presented onto you will affect you. If you are drawing, for example, and someone comes to you, let's say it's a parental figure or some school teacher tells you, you know what, Jenny, draw another one. You can do better than this. You don't devalue the child for what the child has drawn. but you tell the child, draw another one. So what happens, the child is motivated and the child will draw another one. And that's how the child develops its drawing skills. But let's say you come and say, this doesn't look very well. You enforce rejection. What happens? In this case, you mentioned that the drawing could be wasn't that well, but you violated the child. Because it's not about whether you like the drawing or not, it's about the mental health of the child. You violated the mental health of the child by operating in rejection towards the child. If you wanted the child to draw better, you should have triggered the child to do better. But once you use punishment, smacking around, you violate the child. And what happens now? The child is traumatized. The child is shocked. So the child will develop the urge to please people so that they are not mentally smacked anymore. And when the child is re-victimized throughout his teenage years or her teenage years, they may develop antisocial, sociopathic tendencies in which they become antisocial. So the context of how something is delivered is very important. So when those pagan businessmen make those propaganda pieces, they know what they are doing. They know how the human mind works. They know how females work in general, how men work in general, and they know how to trick both sexes into confusion. This is another abomination. Let me just show it over here. What do you see here? You see a figure that's supposed to be a female. It has quite a masculine stare in the eyes. So, okay, it's probably a drawn tranny, but okay. Let's say it's a female. It looks at you with this fierce look like men do. It pulls on the sleeve with a fist as if she's ready to hit you. With blue, showing its enforcement. Red around the head, showing that they want something from you, namely a grip on your mind. We can do it. Who's saying we can do it? It's the demons telling you they can do it. And you have the yellow in the background, which represents the sun. So this meme over here, this image, has become quite powerful. It has inspired many women into their doom. That is how they do it. A lot of people saw this image and they don't really examine the image to think, okay, this image is quite disturbing. You don't see her with a short skirt. You don't see any naked body parts, but this is pornography because they are hinting something to you that's not natural. First of all, the stare in the eyes is one. This posture, like a man about to intimidate you or knock you out, telling you we can do it, but who is we? You only see one individual. If you saw a group on the image, you would say, oh, there's a group. But when they say we, you only see one individual. That means that there's more than one individual here, so that hints to demonic possession. Remember when Christ encountered that demon-possessed man in the graveyard? He had a legion of evil spirits. So the demon said, my name is Legion because we are many. So you only see one individual, that hints to demonic presence right over there. And this is probably a tranny because the jaw is a bit squared over here. So this face isn't even a feminine face to begin with. Remove the headscarf, remove this makeup, and you see the face of an angry man about to knock you out. But that's how they conditioned many women into quote-unquote girl power. That is how they do it. So, whenever you see an image, believer, okay, you see the image, but look at the context of the image. Look, I'm an author. I write short novels. And I often use the image of photographers as covers. I prefer to use images of females because those are quite soft, and so I love to have a soft cover with a nice background with it. So that's what I do. And I know psychology. So anytime I construct a cover of one of my novels, I make sure that the cover communicates to the viewer. Some may not interpret it well, but that's how the mind works. Now, that's just me, one individual. And you have thousands of pagans working on these projects. Also having knowledge of the human mind, but they use it to worship their demons. So never think that any image you see out there is just randomly chosen. It's not. So, when you have many women imitating this tranny over here, or better said demon, because this is also something demons often do. They picture the entities they worship. So it can very well be that this face is the literal face of a demon that's feminized, and now they're putting the image of one of the demonic entities in front of you. That's also possible. So now you have a lot of women who are imitating this demonic entity over here. And what's going to happen? The aggression that's portrayed here will manifest in their lives. But because they are females, the aggression will work against them. So, I'm going to continue to the next part, in which I will explain how all of this causes women to be victimized even more sexually. But before I do that, do you understand what I've explained till now? Let me know in the live chat. I'll just wait. Okay. Okay. Joanna understands it. That's good. Oh, Google gives something. Oh dear, this is. Oh, you know what? Nah, I'm not going to do that. Let's see if may use be able to use this one as an illustration. No, not that, not that, not that. No. You know what? I'm going to do it like this. What you see here, let me just make this bigger, is a model that shows you what visuals does to a male brain. And I just typed this in and I found it already. Those pagans, they know what triggers the brain of a man, because those pagans are men for the most part. They're defective men because they don't worship Christ, because it shows that other guy, Apollo, but they're men. And they know what type of postures triggers the hormonal reaction in the brains of a man. Now, if you have a female figure that's like a little girl, that will shock the brain. A man will say, a little girl, absolutely not. An elderly lady, like a motherly figure, that will turn off also. But everything in between like this, it's enough to trigger the hormonal reaction in a man's brain. So now that you know that, because they know what they're doing, they also came with this thing called the miniskirt in the, I believe it was in 1910s or something like that. They came with it. Those models here are probably tranny, so I'm going to remove this. I'm going to get away from here as soon as possible. So think about this. You have this message that women are potential victims. You also have this design of the miniskirt that comes in, that's promoted as a norm. So you condition the females that they're likely victims, and you give them clothes that will likely trigger a biological reaction in the men around them. There's nothing wrong with a biological reaction, that's how God designed us. But if the population is triggered, I would say not triggered, the population is conditioned and also triggered into seeing females as potential victims, that means the population also familiarized with victimization of females. And if at the same time you condition the women to dress in a way that's sexually inviting, what are you doing? You are conditioning the women to put themselves in a position to be preyed on by sex predators. That's what you're doing. So you're mentally disturbing the females in their development. So you have feminism promoting the miniskirt and promoting the pill for women, and at the same time you have this anti-male rhetoric in which females are always the victim. Those two together, you condition the females that if you're victimized, you're validated. So the mind picks it up. If you symbolize or reflect a potential victim, you'll get attention, you matter. Because the human mind, it works based on our need for significance. So when we are conditioned to do something, because that thing that we do will give us significance, we are likely to cling on to that thing that's expected of us. Even if the thing that's expected of us is completely out of line and dangerous, we are still likely to do it because that deep craving for significance is very strong in a human being. So what you have now is that a big portion of the female population is conditioned into being comfortable in the victim mode. And because of that, they will behave as potential victims. And when they behave as potential victims, that will draw predators who want to unload their violence on them, women. And that is why you have many women out there who act against their own long-term well-being. And if you address their behavior, they'll think you're sexist or whatever. That is how a MK Ultra trauma victim responds. So what happened is that MK Ultra monarch programming, which is really breaking the mind of a child or a teenager through sexual violation, they've conducted this on the masses, especially in the Western world. So now you have many MK Ultra, monarch, beta sex slaves out there that don't have a satanic background. They're just young girls that grew up in society, but they've been subject to this MK Ultra monarch programming. And that is why a lot of females, when they become born again, they have a lot to process because they've literally been raised by a satanic cult. It's one thing if a girl has been sexually molested by a group of men as a ritual when she was a child, and now she's out there dressing as a victim, putting herself in risky situations all the time. People say that's obvious, but now you have many women who did not grow up in a setting where they were victimized by groups of men as a ritual, but the same victimization happened to them mentally. Because this is how the mind works. You don't have to physically violate someone in order to have the same effect. You can stab someone and they're wounded. Or you can use imagery or suggestions to cause a shock in someone, and eventually the body will get ill also. That's how powerful the mind is. So, what you have now is a population under MK Ultra monarch programming, which causes women to become like beta sex slaves, because in the paranormal, women are not valued at all. So, but you knew that already. And because many of the women act like beta sex slaves, they now think that when a man acts like a pimp, that he values her. So the women are conditioned that violation means validation. But if the violation happens in a very obvious way, the spell breaks. But if the violation happens in a smooth way, women think, I'm appreciated. And that's how women are deformed to fall for the quote-unquote bad boy. It's not a natural phenomenon. It's something that happens when women are sexually confused by their environment. And what did they use to sexually confuse the women? TV. Later, the internet. Also, magazines. And today, social media. That is how they do it. So, do you understand what I just explained about MK Ultra monarch programming? Again, communicate with me in the live chat. I'll just wait. I want you to understand this. Okay, Joanna understands it. Okay, that's good. Let me wait a little while more. Look. And now, look at this. When you have many women operating like beta sex slaves, what happens when they become pregnant? Normally, when a woman becomes pregnant, her motherly instincts are activated. But when a woman has been conditioned to be like a beta sex slave, she's frightened because her development is arrested. talk about the emotional development. So now she wants to get rid of the child. And then you have those clinics called abortion clinics where they can get rid of the child. So now she will sacrifice the well-being of that future human being so that she doesn't have to deal with the situation. And that's how you enroll women in blood sacrifice. Or if a female acts like a beta sex slave and she's involved with a guy that's sexually defective, she will likely prefer the cheap validation of that guy above the well-being of her child, and she'll end up enabling harm on the child. That also happens. And slowly but slowly, you see that they want to make this abortion thing something public. Why? They want to bring back the good old days when you had those altars on a hill and the whole village came together and they would ignite an oven in the form of a statue, and they would load the babies crying into the oven, burning, while they're dancing, playing songs. That is what we want to bring back. But they're doing it slowly. Again, sexual confusion first, blood sacrifice flows easily. Do you understand now why sex is such a taboo subject in the world? Why? Because sexuality is the core of our being. And it's this core that the world is abusing for it to remain in existence as the world. Once you know what you are as a spirit being, because sexuality is spiritual, once you understand that, you would never get along with the propaganda of the world anymore. And you not getting along with the propaganda of the world means that you become a threat onto the world, and it means that financially you'll be better off. Because that piece of paper called money derives its power from the sexual confusion that we're under. Because due to the sexual confusion, people trust that piece of paper that has dead men on it. They don't trust one another, they trust that piece of paper. So when you have a piece of paper, people open up themselves to you. So this whole world system depends on us being sexually defective. The moment you're sexually healthy, you're weird. They don't want to deal with you. So that is why over and over again those pagan corporations will use defective females as managers or as people in charge. Scripture is very clear that women are not meant to be the head. What they do in those pagan businesses, you have a man who's the head of the corporation, but in management position you have many females who are over other men, which is unnatural. They do this on purpose. So, before I continue, are there any questions about what I've just explained? Again, let me know in the live chat. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So realize, believers, that change for the better doesn't happen by you clinging on to an economic project. Economic projects can be good, as I suggested, that you can purchase small plots of land, you can have multiple bank accounts, you can do all of that. But the root of this world system is sexual confusion. That's where it begins. Once you're freed from that, the world has nothing in you anymore. It's one thing to be out of the world. It's another thing to have the world out of you. And Christ wants the world out of you. Too many believers carry the world inside of them. And when you carry the world inside of you, the enemy has a link to you directly. You can't be delivered from the world if you carry the world in you. You have to be delivered from the world even though you're still in the world. So that means acknowledging and accepting fully your natural vulnerabilities and weaknesses. It's when you accept your natural vulnerabilities and weaknesses completely that you realize that you need them back up. That's being humble. And when you're humble, you're able to receive from God. And it's then that you'll be able to relate in an empathic and prosperous manner to other people. The moment that you don't embrace your natural vulnerability, you are in compensation. You're looking for some compensation. And any type of compensation will come from the enemy. Because when you follow God, you need no compensation because you have the real deal. That is why those that govern this world wants us all to be sexually defective. It's part of their pact for them to retain their hold, quote unquote, political power over the masses. We need to be sexually effective. As long as we're sexually defective, they are secure of their hold on us. As long as we're sexually defective, they don't even have to come with a RFID chip. They don't even have to come with a police state. The police state is there to push fright. But as long as we're sexually defective, that's all they need. So now you understand what's going on around you. Those blood sacrifices that are going on can only continue because we enable them. And the reason we enable them is because we're sexually defective without us being aware of it. We're often not aware of what's being done to us on a daily basis. But once you walk by faith, you are aware, you can easily shake it off of you. And once you shake it off of you, that's where the power of the Holy Spirit begins to flow through you. And that's what demons don't want to happen. So, that is why I always tell you to agree with Christ. By agreeing with Christ, you're agreeing with His design, which brings forth life. Not just biological life, babies being born, but also life in the community. Because human sexuality is male energy in action. It's a social function of males. Human sexuality is a social function of males designed by God Himself. So that social function is to sustain and maintain life on the earth. Peace and harmony, to reflect God's happiness. That's why the world wants to pervert you from a very young age. So now, I want to give the platform to you to ask questions. I'll wait a few minutes till your questions roll in the live stream. I'll just wait for you. Susan asks, where do you see the satanic agenda of androgyny heading? The satanic agenda of androgyny, it heads towards the following direction. This tranny cult that they have out there will remain. So that will continue. And you'll have a lot of more confused youth. And because of this, you'll have weaker families and weaker communities. That's what this cult of androgyny is all about. To have weak human communities. Why? Because if you're exposed to fake women all the time, you as a man, you have difficulty recognizing a real woman after a while. Even if you're with a real woman, because you know she's a real woman, related to her will be difficult if you've been exposed to to images of fake women all the time. So you have a less effective sexual communication with your wife, which will lead to stagnating marriages, which will lead to broken or defective families. And if that happens on a mass scale, you'll have a very weak community that can't cohere together, so there will be less social trust, less social cohesion, so there will be more division and fright, and with division and fright, people will cling on to political structures. So this tranny cult thing that's going on is a political movement to hinder you from forming healthy, strong connections with your fellow human beings and to prevent you from having a fulfilling life in Christ. That's what it's meant to do. So there's going to be weaker communities with more government interference. So more police, more of the army, so more law enforcement. That's what you're going to see. It's only because people don't have strong communities, it's only because people are plagued by sexual filth that they're willing to embrace this violation of their natural freedoms. A community where this whole androgyny agenda is kicked out, you'll see restoration of masculinity, restoration of femininity. Females will behave as females, men as men. Strong families, strong marriages, strong communities. No satanic army, no satanic programming can enter in that community. There will be life, there will be healing, there will be health, there will be joy and prosperity in such a community. So, are there more questions? I'll just wait. Here's the thing about prisoners. Joanna asked, what do you think is this agenda with all these prisoners being released at this time, especially around this corona outbreak? I get the aging population, but why prisoners? Now, it's very easy. Prisoners are the scapegoats of society. Why is society safe? Because we got rid of those guys. Whether those guys are guilty or not doesn't matter. We have people in jail, and because there are people in jail, you know if you don't comply with what society wants, something bad's going to happen. And if something bad happens to you, it's your fault. We don't want to hear about it. So prisoners are the scapegoats. By releasing the prisoners, there is no scapegoat anymore. So if there is no scapegoat, what will motivate the commoners to comply with society? That means that they need another target now. And the new target will be anyone who doesn't comply with the new safety regulations. They'll become the new scapegoat. And that's how they initiate the masses into the quote-unquote new era, the new political cycle of the world. I admit, Susan, in this world it's not always possible to have such a strong community over a long period of time because many people aren't delivered. Such communities on a tiny scale can exist, but it doesn't take long before they're under attack. About the end times, look, I explained before that you have political cycles in the world in which the beast always comes with a miraculous recovery to fool the masses. Christ will return during one of those transitions. We don't know which one it is. It can be this one, it can be the next one, or maybe two after. We don't know. We just realize that scripture is being fulfilled right in front of us. And where is this cycle of Christ will return or another one? We don't know. Only He knows when He returns. Our focus should be to do His will on the earth right now. So no rapture thing, no going to heaven thing, nothing of, oh, soon we'll be out of here. No. This is the earth. Here's where we live. This is our home. We must live and walk by faith to glorify the Heavenly Father in the here and now. And when we walk by faith, we will overcome the beast system, we will overcome all of this programming, and will be on the earth prosperous and well. Because the beast system has one obvious weakness. It cannot last. That's why it's partly mirror clay, partly iron. It doesn't mix together. They want to imitate the empathy of Christ in the system. But the empathy of Christ, which is based on vulnerability, doesn't mix with this sodomy, harshness of the world. Because they want to combine these two together, it goes wrong. And that is the weakness of the system. And this weakness is covered and not touched upon because the masses are kept in sexual confusion. So, any more questions? Just like Susan said, in New York, abortion is allowed a day before birth. Soon, they will say abortion is allowed after birth. So they will say abortion till 1 year, till a child is 1 year of age. In the German Empire, in the 1870s, 1880s, 1890s, all till the First World War, it was allowed. Well, not really allowed, it was tolerated that you could kill your child if your child was less than a year old, or when your child was approaching 1 year old. It was allowed. So if a father decides, you know what, I don't want to be responsible for this child, just kill it and bury it in the garden. It would happen. People would just tolerate it. Well, soon they want to be able to kill children publicly with approval of the masses. That is where this thing is heading. Well, I don't know how long you've been in this live stream, but I've just explained that sexuality is our core of what we are as human beings. We are spirit beings with souls in bodies, and sexuality is our core of our design. And they worship Satan, who wants to divert male sexual investments onto himself. That's what Satan wants. Satan wants all the sexual aggression of males for himself. Satan is a sodomite. And elite, they worship Satan, so they want to divert male sexuality away from his purpose, namely to be an investment into the life and sanity and well-being of the community. So that's why they're so obsessed with violence. It's not really sex that they are involved, that they're obsessed with, it's violence. Because once you distort the sex blueprint that Christ designed, you have violence, not sex anymore. So sexual violence is what drives the elite. Do you understand what I've explained, Kwa? Now, Susan, now you understand why when Hitler came to power, so many people got along with him so easily, because you had a lot of adults who were traumatized because their siblings were killed by their parents. So first you have to sexually traumatize the people before they can come with genocide and all of that. Okay, could you explain what a sex magic ritual is and why these Satans drink blood? It goes like this. A sex magic ritual is a ritual in which the target is violated mentally, and because they're mentally violated, their energy field is weakened and broken. And while the energy field is weakened and broken, now they sexually penetrate, beat, and do whatever with that target, and this releases an overwhelming amount of negative energy that feeds the demons. The demons get their high from what's going on. And in some cases they do this and they kill the victim suddenly by slitting their throat or whatever, and then they drink the blood. Why? Because the life source of the human being they take in them, and by doing that they get extra paranormal abilities for a while. Where did they get this practice from? They got this practice from some of the fallen princes from heaven that came to earth before the days of Noah and drank male blood out of males and materialized their beings in order to violate the females on the earth. That's where they get it from. Well, Susan, what you can do now is mainly pray. If he's almost complete reprobate, that means that along the way somewhere he decided for fate solutions. So it's horrible what happened to your son, absolutely. But for your safety and well-being, if he's almost a complete reprobate, remain in prayer firmly. You can do that. You can ask others to pray for you, but don't involve yourself with them directly. I wouldn't recommend it. Someone asked, are they trying to bring back the old Rome like the brutal days of the Colosseum with killing is a norm? Now, they can't bring back the old days in Rome, but what they do want to do is that the masses get out of it and the masses begin to do weird things, because then they can play the saviors by intervening. That's what they want to do. Okay. Let's see if I miss a question in here. Let me see. No. Didn't miss anything. Okay. Believers, thank you for being here in this live stream. Remember, okay, someone says once someone is a full-blown cannibalizing, blood-drinking reprobate, are they no longer considered human? Okay, they're always human because that's their being, but the moment someone fully joins the elite into these blood-drinking rituals and all of that, they are treated as Nephilim by the Most High. And the same we should do. Not that we go out there and remove them from the earth, but you get what I'm saying. So treat them as if they are Nephilim, because they behave like Nephilim. Because it's Nephilim that used to drink human blood and do all of that. Well, I don't want to make this live stream too long for those who will view it in the future. Remember to always agree